So these are some screenshots from our app, which is on the Google Play Store. You can download it if you search for The Prize Manor, P-R-Y-Z. It's been in beta since July. We've had about 50,000 downloads. Thousands of people play it every day. And some of that play generates data for paying clients. So how did we get to this, really a fun-first approach to market research? Well, our colleagues at Disney challenged us to come up with a new way to rethink market research. So colleagues at the movie studios, parks and resorts, consumer products, ABC TV, and in the video that sort of shows our origin story, I've really composited all those colleagues into the one character, Karen, that you'll see.
Karen is responsible for tracking attitudinal data for major consumer brands, but she's finding this to be a difficult and expensive task. She has access to a large online panel and frequently asks her panelists to answer surveys, but her response rates are low. She's tried to make her survey questions more entertaining, but it isn't working. And sometimes she really wonders, who are these people? And what kind of people would want to spend time participating in traditional market research when it's so unrewarding? Karen's also dabbled in social media mining, but the data is noisy and hard to interpret. But now she's found a fascinating new source of data, with all sorts of people happily giving her the brand attitude data she needs by playing games. Upfront Analytics has created a mobile app called The Prize Manor, with specially designed games that reveal consumer attitudes as they play. Karen works with Upfront Analytics to create game content that shows how consumers are currently viewing the brands that interest her. With thousands of players every week expressing their attitudes on her brands and a variety of other topics, Karen can mine a large data corpus for insights. Then she can view the responses and tracking metrics in real time. Karen now has a valuable new form of attitudinal data that's revealing insights in a completely new way that's fun and engaging for respondents. Download The Prize Manor at Google Play to play the games for yourself. And contact Upfront Analytics today to find out more.
So our games we're actually old school when it comes to games. Our games are inspired by parlor games and board games that really have entertained generations. They've stood the test of time. And how did we end up looking at those kinds of games? If you think about games, charades, parlor game, or board games like Taboo or Pictionary, there's key game elements that show up again and again. You're asked to compare things, describe things, estimate things, predict things. You're asked for top-of-mind responses. That actually should sound familiar because they're the tasks you ask people to do in surveys and focus groups as well. The difference is games are fun. So to show you an example of that, one of our games that's in the suite right now is called Name Dropper, and it's inspired by the game Charades. So Charades is a parlor game where one player has a topic that they have to get other people to guess. So in our version of that, it's a two-person game. So two people are playing on their mobile devices, Android devices. They could be anywhere on the planet. And the clue giver, whose screen is up here, is given a topic. In this case, it's the movie RoboCop that just came out. And this clue giver has to get the guesser to guess RoboCop for them both to win points. That's the game. And the way the clue giver can tell the guesser what to guess is by sending clues from 3 different trays of clues. They have good clues in there, they're also mixed with distractors. To make the game more interesting, the clues have different costs. So here, the clues were sent, and the RoboCop was guessed, both players get points. Now the role changes. This player now becomes the clue giver, and now the topic is Beyonce. Much of the games we have, the content is just for fun, but imagine we were Beyonce's talent agent and she wants to know how she's being perceived. The clues in here and their selection by the player gives an indication of attitude and awareness about Beyonce. So in many ways, this game gives you exactly the same data you'd get from an attribute list question in a survey, but it's more fun.
So to go one level deeper on how we've actually structured our system. So the overall premise here is that we've built this suite of games. All the games work together in one app. You download the one app and you get access to the suite. And the games themselves, the structure stays the same, but we change out the content. And as Joe mentioned, about 80 to 90% of the content is just for fun, and then 10 to 20% is market intelligence-based content. And it's completely organic to change back and forth between the just for fun content and the market intelligence content, because brands and products and things like Beyonce and RoboCop, they're just part of life, and they're the types of things that people are interested in talking about and guessing and playing games around. And so we have this suite of games, and each game generates a different type of market intelligence, and then we can bundle all those insights together under one comprehensive profile of a given player. So we can find out things like preference. For instance, does a person prefer a hamburger to a salad? Psychographics, responses to visual collateral such as logos or product images, how consumers perceive price. Do they think a particular product is expensive or cheap? And purchase behavior. What products do people actually own and use, and how frequently do they replenish certain products in their home? So all of these are triangulated using a different game within the suite, and then they're combined to make this profile of the player. And then we can look at the data in a few different ways. We can look at comparative data, so amongst different brands. For instance, candy brands is one of the studies that we're looking at now. How are people perceiving different brands and compare them from one to another? Or we can also build up a large data corpus of the players and go back and mine that data in the same way that you would mine social media data. So the big overall key here is start with the games first, make it fun, make the games the primary focal point, and then work from that to have it yield useful data, rather than a number of other approaches that start with taking a survey or taking something you're trying to find out and then thinking about how to make it more fun. We've kind of gone the other direction. And the methods that we're using, they tap into Kahneman's System 1 responses, so fast, uncensored, intuitive responses. And that really aligns well with gameplay, and it aligns with purchase decisions as well, as if you read Kahneman's work. And we're seeing the responses here play out from how we're starting with the fun games. So these are some of the quotes from our players. Our app rating is very good. And the ultimate test is, do people keep playing the games? So our main goal with our games is long-term retention, because the data gets more and more valuable the longer that a particular player plays the game. And these are, the top line here is our retention rate compared to the average game in the Android, in the Google Play Store. And our day one retention, so these are people that come back the next day after playing the first day. Our day one retention is 40% versus the typical game is 10%. And more importantly, over time, that differential holds up. So players are really finding the games fun and rewarding, and that's what we were going for.
So we've talked about the game experience from the player's point of view. What does the client actually see? So the game data from the gameplay goes right into the database, which can be accessed online. And in fact, we have a data set that you can log into if you want. This was the study that Amber alluded to on candy bars. So if you go to that website, management.ufa.ie/explorer, log in UFA and password demo, you can explore the data too. You may even see it update in real time, because it does change as the players play. So to give you an example of some of the data that we've gathered with that, this is a study we did for fun on 3 candy bars: Snickers, Hershey Bar, and Kit Kat. And what you're seeing here on this chart is the selection of words from the name dropper game for the different brands. So it may be a little difficult to read, but you can see the word chewy, for example, was selected a whole lot more for Snickers, which, if you're familiar with the candy bars, and I, alas, am too familiar with all of them, Snickers is chewy, Hershey Bar and Kit Kat, you wouldn't describe it that way. So that passes the sniff test. People are correctly selecting a word there. There's a little bit more subtlety in, say, the word satisfying. Snickers over years has tried to use satisfying in a lot of its marketing campaigns and even on its wrapper. And you can see some of that is succeeding with the population. More people pick satisfying for Snickers than for Hershey or Kit Kat, but it's not a huge difference. They don't quite own the word yet, although there's more recognition for it. Another more subtle thing that maybe Hershey should be worried about is down here on classic and old-fashioned, Hershey scores a lot higher. This might be good or bad depending on how they do their marketing. I actually looked this up. Snickers and Kit Kat have been around since the 20s or 30s, but Hershey has actually been around since 1900, but maybe people perceive it as old-fashioned. So this is the kind of data, and there's many other kinds, I encourage you to explore it, that you can get from the gameplay and that can produce useful insights. In addition to getting that kind of quantitative data, you can also, we have our own chat rooms with the games, so there's been some discussion at the conference on text analytics from other people's feeds, Twitter and so on. We want to create our own feed, particularly because the comments are, we know what they're about. They're about the brands and products that we've prompted in the games, and often there's some interesting insights that we had there. So far, we've applied the suite of games and done the analysis in a wide variety of industries that you see up here, mostly using the same games. And as we expand the games, we'll be able to expand the kinds of applications that we're looking at and the kinds of products we consider. So now in the next few slides, just to end up, some of the objections that sometimes people raise to this kind of research. The first one is, who actually plays games? Well, roughly half the people in the US of all ages have smartphones. Of those, about 75% of people play games on smartphones. Playing games on smartphones is a lot closer to normal and typical behavior than, say, answering the phone to take a phone survey. And it's increasingly becoming that way.
You might be thinking, is this gamification, is this not gamification, how does it fit in? We're another one of those people that hates the word gamification. Primarily because we think of gamification as being incremental and versus games that are just a completely different paradigm. So our goal, as we mentioned earlier, is to really make games the primary action, actual games that stand on their own as games, and then create brand and product intelligence as a byproduct of those games. And another question that comes up is, how does this compare to social media mining? And we think we've got the best of both worlds in our approach. So we've got the large volume of data that is generated in social settings such as Twitter. And we've currently got more than 11 million associations that have been generated in our games, and that creates a corpus that can be mined. But unlike social media mining, we have that data tied to particular inquiries. So we've structured the conversation such that we know when someone is talking about a particular movie or a particular brand of soft drink or a particular brand of soap even, that they're talking about what we're intending for them to be talking about rather than having to mine through a lot of noise that comes along with social media mining. So getting this volume of data is really a big benefit of the technique that we're using. And another thing that comes up is the importance of privacy in a setting such as this. And particularly in a mobile setting where we can get a lot of detailed information about particular people, it's essential that they know what's coming along with the app as they're playing. So we have full and repeated disclosure to the players that this is a market intelligence app, and we tell them that before they download in the Google Play Store. We prompt it in big, bold letters with the terms of service as soon as they start playing, and we don't disguise the nature of the games, that we have brand-related content. Furthermore, we don't integrate identity with the responses. So we've purposely chosen to not go with Facebook because that would put a player's identity in with the data that we're collecting from them. And players, if they win prizes, and we do have prizes in our games for quality and quantity of gameplay, at that point they need to disclose their name to win a prize. And we also don't abuse our ability to contact players, so we only sell aggregate data and we don't market to the players. And with that, I'll pause for questions.